I could really die of anger from this kind of father. His legitimate daughter is critically ill and dying, and instead of feeling heartbroken, he is still thinking about having his concubine's daughter take his daughter's place in a high-status marriage. My daughter married into a marquis household 3 years ago, and suddenly fell gravely ill. She begged me that after her death I would protect her frail young daughter. Me heart was cut like a knife, but on my ones with my husband, I overheard him happily talking with his concubine. Once the eldest girl dies, we'll have our daughter take her place. What can she say? Just for the sake of the child the eldest girl left behind. She'll have to agree to let Jua become the brother-in-law's replacement wife. You think Jua is already 18? Why do you think I've kept her unmarried? It is for this very day, once Jua marries over. In a couple years she'll give the marquis a son, and we'll have everything. Concubine Fang's delighted laughter came from the study, and I felt like I'd fallen into an icy pit, and he held his beautiful darling in his arms, carefully planning for the daughter she bore him. But the price was my daughter's life. When He Jing came to my courtyard, he happened to run into me taking inventory of the dowry shops in my possession. He said with a smile, "I actually have something I need to discuss with you." The eldest girl suddenly fell gravely ill. I am afraid she won't survive this winter. That child under her care is only 2 years old. Plans for the child. In my opinion, why not let Jua marry her brother-in-law as a replacement wife? What do you think? Looking at his probing gaze. I understood. He already knew I had been to the study that evening. I think it is quite good. We must consider and plan for those who are still alive. He Jing breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Exactly so. It is just that Jua is from a concubine, though the mold is only taking a replace. It is still marrying up, so let's register Jua under your name as a legitimate daughter. You don't have any other children anyway, so keeping all that dowry is useless. Better to add more of it to Jua's dowry. Later, when little Yu grows up and gets married, we can give it to her then. Jua would just be keeping it safe for now." His eyes stared at me intently, carrying a hint of guilt. Intense humiliation and hatred nearly drowned me. Wait a little longer, endure a little more. My blade is almost sharpened. Registering her as a legitimate daughter is a small matter, but as for the dowry, I have another use for it, so I am afraid that won't work. He Jing's expression turned ugly. You are deliberately being difficult to spite me and embarrass the He family. Jua is marrying into a marquis household, and as a replacement wife at that. If her dowry is much less than Awan's was when she married, won't that make us a laughingstock? I said disappointedly. Husband didn't even ask me where I wanted to spend my own dowry, and just directly convicted me. In your eyes, am I such a person? I threw the letter from my sleeve at He Jing's chest. The content of the letter was what I wrote, imitating my elder brother's handwriting. To my beloved sister, the Empress Dowager will celebrate her birthday soon, and the Prime Minister is worried about what birthday gift to give her, as his legitimate son has just married the princess. I have already fired a piece of porcelainware that satisfied the Prime Minister, and sent it over in brother-in-law's name, resolving the Prime Minister's urgent problem. The Prime Minister was very pleased, praised brother-in-law profusely, and said he must reward him. You two wait for the good news. Brother-in-law will be transferred back to the capital soon. After He Jing finished reading he excitedly paced back and forth in the side hall holding the letter, overjoyed beyond expectation. He had been stationed in Yangzhou for 8 years, and each time during the year, end evaluations, he was just 1 step away from returning to the capital. Because of this, he was burning with anxiety. He Jing came to me with a sheepish face to apologize. I brushed away his hand that came to massage my shoulders and sneered. This dowry, even bear to take it out when big sister got married. Now to make arrangements for your promotion back to the capital. No matter how reluctant I am, I have no choice but to take it out. Who told you to be my husband? Since husband cares so much about Jua, then keep these property deeds for Jua's dowry, and there is no need to curry favor with the Prime Minister. He Jing anxiously interrupted me, saying urgently, "This is foolish talk. The Prime Minister's side is such a great opportunity. As long as I connect with the Prime Minister, I'll rise steadily in the future. How could the Marquis Manor dare treat Jua poorly? Good wife, I know I was wrong. I truly had a petty mind. Please forgive me." Even now, when Every single word and sentence he mentions is only about Hiju. He never once cared about my daughter, he won. Nor does he have the slightest concern for the child we gave birth to. Having such a husband, father, and maternal grandfather is our shame. Early the next morning, Hijing left triumphantly for work. The concubines in the household came to pay their respects to me as usual. I looked at Hiju standing beside concubine Fang. She inherited concubine Fang's looks, possessing a beauty like flowers and the moon. After elder sister married, I took on the duties of the household mistress, arranging marriages for the children born of concubines. When it was Hiju's turn, she suddenly broke out in a rash on her face, which dragged on for a year or two. By the time her face healed, she was already past the marriageable age. The candidates I could select for her became very few. Hijing made the final decision, saying that since this was the case, let her stay at home. We weren't lacking this one marriage alliance anyway. Just like that, she remained at home until she was 18. I recalled what Hijing said to concubine. Once the eldest daughter dies, we'll have our daughter take her place. Can she say, even if it is for the sake of the child the eldest daughter left behind, she has to agree to let Jua become brother-in-law's second wife? Do you think I've kept Jua unmarried for no reason? Even though she is already 18? I looked at Hizu with affection. The fourth young lady and my nephew from my maiden family are about the same age. Concubine Fang immediately became guarded and said softly, "The master said to keep Zua by his side, not to marry her off or disposals." I let out a sarcastic laugh, took a sip of tea, and said leisurely, "Concubine Fang, where is your mind? This nephew of mine became a jinchi at such a young age and often walks in the palace, quite favored by the emperor. My sister-in-law has high standards and takes his marriage very seriously. The ones she is considering are all legitimate daughters from official families of 4th rank or above." The concubines from the other households were already dissatisfied with concubine Fang's monopoly on favor, and upon hearing this they all mocked her. Hiju's tears swirled in her eyes, and the handkerchief in her hand was nearly twisted to shreds. Concubine Fang's face turned deathly pale, and she pressed her lips together in embarrassment. At this moment, Nanian came running over joyfully and whispered in my ear. I stood up abruptly, overjoyed as I said, Really, her condition has stabilized. Really, Uncle brought a divine physician from outside, said that eldest miss was poisoned by someone. Now the poison's been cured, so of course she is better." Concubine Fangs drastically. I clasped my hands together, chanting Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. Heaven has opened its eyes. Quickly follow me to offer incense to the Sangxing immortals. After Nanian and I left, the other concubines also left one after another. Only Hiju and Concubine remained in the hall, standing there in a daze. Concubine Fang stood up shakily, supporting herself on the armrest, her face white as paper. Hiju frantically grabbed Concubine Fang's hand. "Didn't father say that with that medicine, she would definitely die? I am already 18, mother. I can't wait any longer." Concubine Fang abruptly covered her mouth. "Shut up!" She suddenly let out a cold laugh, the resentment and jealousy in her eyes instantly turning into, "Isn't her nephew a jinchi? Her maternal family are imperial merchants. If she can't become the Marquis Manor's second wife, becoming a jinchi's wife isn't bad either. If you and her nephew, your father will naturally uphold justice for you." After the two left, Nanian came out from behind the screen. "Miss, your divine foresight was right. Eldest Miss's illness really is connected to them. You tested it out in one go." "Cutie, how shameless to actually dare to covet young Master nephew." I laughed coldly. "What does my nephew matter? If it weren't for Hijing's reach not extended, even if they were imperial consorts, they would dare to scheme. Their ambition, their greed, all of it was nurtured by that man. The instigator, how could he not deserve to die?" That night, as soon as Hijing finished his shift, Concubine Fang's side sent someone to invite him. I also sent someone to invite him, saying there was news from the Prime Minister's residence. Thinking of his own career prospects, turned down Concubine Fang's side and came to my place for dinner, I said with a smile. "The charcoal gifts for currying favor with superiors have all been sent up, and the Prime Minister is very satisfied." "He sent word," Hijing said excitedly. What did the Prime Minister say? The book I had just finished reading today and said with a smiling fabrication. The Prime Minister said His Majesty is old and fond of filial sons, but the princes below are all fighting for the throne. Now everything is ready, only lacking an opportunity to elevate you, husband. Do you remember the story of lying on ice to obtain carp? He Jing said happily, I understand. That very night my mother-in-law, who had always been in good health, suddenly coughed up blood and clamoured for live crucian carp. He Jing tearfully went to break through ice to catch fish in the heavy snow. He deliberately busied himself all night, and by the next day when common folk had all risen, he stripped down to just his undergarment and jumped into the river. The news caused a sensation throughout the city in no time. This matter quickly reached His Majesty's ears, and His Majesty was greatly pleased and rewarded him. But he fell ill with a chill that entered his body, burning with an unrelenting fever. The physician wrote a prescription, and I made a big fuss demanding the finest medicinal ingredients. After brewing it, He Jing didn't drink a single bowl. I poured all the medicinal soup into the potted plant by the window. His condition worsened, and he was already barely breathing. I stayed by his sick bed, blocking concubine Fang and He Ju, who came to visit. All the daughters in the household have married off. Only you remain, so go to the small Buddhist hall and pray for your father's blessings. Concubine Fang said indignantly, The small Buddhist hall is draughty on all sides, and it is snowing now. Jue has a weak constitution. How such hardship? I sneered. Concubine Fang has been so spoiled by her husband that she disregards hierarchy and propriety. Since that is the case, go pray for blessings together with your daughter. The mother and daughter were gagged and sent to the Buddhist hall. Me people were guarding everywhere outside the Buddhist hall. I went there personally, and Nanny Ann had prepared various torture instruments. Nanny Ann is the daughter of my mother's nanny, and also my daughter's wet nurse. We grew up together, and she has been with me longer than anyone else. Between us, we are master and servant, but also sisters. What is the truth behind the poison in the eldest Miss's body? The red-hot iron brand pressed down. For a moment, the entire Buddhist hall was filled with the woman's shrill cries and curses. Concubine Fang cursed me to die a terrible death. I smiled. I don't know how much longer I can live, but all of you will die soon. In the end, Concubine Fang couldn't bear and screamed frantically. No. Let Jua go. Let Jua go. If you let her go, I'll tell you everything. Fine, I agreed, resigning herself to fate. Before the eldest Miss got married, Master He gave her fragrant incense as part of her dowry. It was the famous Western region incense, Red Buddha's hand. If a woman is to it day and night, she will surely die within 5 years. I suppressed the shock in my heart and grabbed He Ju by the hair, pressing her toward the fire. You are spouting complete nonsense. A Wan is his own daughter. Even a vicious tiger won't eat its cubs. How could he do such a thing? Concubine Fang struggled and shrieked. It is true back then, Master, he was being hunted by mountain bandits, and you were captured trying to save him. Latter, your father and brothers paid a heavy ransom to get you back, but soon after you became pregnant, out of consideration for your childhood friendship, and because your father and brothers treated him so well, he held his nose in disgust and acknowledged He Wan as his daughter. The reason you never had children after that was also because the jewelry he gave you was all infused with things that prevent women from getting pregnant. Madam, my death doesn't matter. Please spare Jua. He Lang has already treated you with utmost benevolence and righteousness. Madam, how could you still go and harm his child? After leaving the Buddha hall, my whole body couldn't stop falling, and I collapsed onto the ground in utter despair. Nanny Ann held me tightly in her arms, wailing heartbrokenly. Miss, he is just a bastard. Back then, you shouldn't have saved him. Should have just let those bandits hack him to death. I burst into loud sobs. Nanny, I regret it so much. When I saved He Jing, he was only 10 years old. Me family was in business without so many restrictions, and I travelled far and wide with my parents and brothers. His father died early, leaving only a blind and sickly mother, so he could only make money by copying books. The bookshop owner bullied him for being young and fatherless, and wouldn't pay him what he was owed. During the argument, he even called over servants to beat him up. I saved him, and my father, valuing talent and seeing his excellent calligraphy, not only made him a retainer of our family and let him study at our family academy, he also supported and treated his mother medically. When I married him, he had already passed the imperial examination with high honors and had a bright future ahead. But he was dissatisfied with his superior's disregard for human life and exposed it with a written accusation. His superior was demoted and exiled, and while he seemingly received commendation, it was actually a promotion in name but a demotion in reality. He was confused and dissatisfied. This trip away from the capital was full of resentment and guilt toward me, but I was happy. At least he was truly a good official. At least I hadn't misjudged him. But on the road we were ambushed by mountain bandits. Anyang could tell someone wanted to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys, to intimidate the other hothead youngsters in the court. To protect him, I put on his official robes and drove the carriage away. He was safe and sound, but I was captured. Fortunately, the second in command of the bandits had once worked on my family's boat and owed us a favor. Father also sent enough gold and silver, so I survived. He died and apologized. In just half a month, he'd grown white hair and was thin as a skeleton down and out, and half crazed he looked like a madman, nothing like his brilliant self at the Chonglin feast. His original ambition was to be a good official, so he'd charged spiritedly into the bureaucracy, wanting to boldly reform this filthy world. He disdained factions, wouldn't do the kowtowing. He wanted to be a different kind of official, but one assassination attempt made him piss his pants. The cold blade scared the guts out of him and killed off the young hothead official. What remained was Lord He, disciplined and assimilated into the bureaucracy. During the month after returning from the bandits' lair to the He household, He Jing and I never consummated our marriage, but I soon became pregnant. The doctor said the child was already 2 months along. By date, it was when he hadn't yet been assigned out of the capital, already there while still in the capital. So I never thought much of it. I thought he was the same. But it turns out, this is what he thought. He thought I was defiled. He thought I bribed the physician. He thought I deceived him. He thought one was someone else's blood was his disgrace. So all these years he has always been indifferent toward Awan. Even though Awan is so clever and beautiful, she couldn't get even a bit of his affection. All those past puzzlements now have answers. Answers so disgusting they make me want to vomit. After formulating the antidote for Red Buddha's hand, the court's commendation and the filial son plaque for He Jing were also delivered. Send it to the Marquis of Anyang. Tell Awan's mother-in-law that my daughter's father is about to die. Let my daughter come see him one last time. Now, with the filial son plaque from the court, she won't refuse to let Awan. Nanny, go fetch her yourself. Prepare thick padding in the carriage. Don't let her catch cold. After Nanian left, I coldly looked at He Jing's deathly pale face, conscious for over a month now. After Yangzhou City's best physician came to examine him, he gave mind. The physician said, even if He Jing wakes up, he'll be left with the affliction of a stroke. In other words, he can never set foot in official circles again for the rest of his life, unless he dies. Otherwise, every day he lives, he'll be like the walking dead, begging for a living under my control. A few days later, Nanian returned by carriage with my dying daughter. I had been waiting outside early, watching the approaching carriage draw nearer and nearer, tears streaming uncontrollably from my eyes. After Nanny Ann got off the carriage, there was no smile on her face. Instead, she shook her head at me with grief, indignation, and humiliation. I froze. At that moment, the carriage curtain lifted. Besides my frail daughter and granddaughter who came, there was actually also her husband, the Marquis of Anyang Chen Shao. Yi had just thought he still had some conscience, when a seductive and charming woman leaned out from inside, coquettishly whining in a soft voice. Cousin, help me down, won't you? Chen Shao smiled and cupped his hands in greeting toward me, calling me. He caught her and placed her on the prepared stretcher. The woman's coquettish voice seemed so out of place in such a solemn situation, the originally decent hour and more awkward bit by bit. Chen Xiao pressed his lips together, looking at my daughter with guilt. When facing my cold gaze, he couldn't help but avert his eyes. In the end, it was my daughter who forced herself to sit up with a smile and said to me, "Mother, this is my mother-in-law's niece, the Marquis Manor's cousin, Miss Yuru. Her body is frail, assign her a few healthy maids to attend to her and have a room cleaned out." She looked toward her personal servant. "Since cousin Miss can't get down, you Olga," pushed away my daughter's maidservant's hand and said coquettishly, "How dare you nobodies touch me? Hurry up and kneel down. I am going to step on you to get down." I was so angry that blood nearly rushed to my head. My daughter secretly gripped my hand tightly, stopping me from speaking. She looked toward Chen Xiao with difficulty. "Husband, the imperial physician is still in the manor. His Majesty detests the practice of human stools and abolished it after ascending the throne. Even the dandy sons in the capital wouldn't dare do this so openly. Since the Marquis Manor's carriage entered Yangzhou, common people have been following and watching all along the way. In a short while, the magistrate will also come to pay his respects to you. Anna cannot afford to lose this much face." My daughter coughed violently, drops of fresh blood spilling from her lips. Chen Xiao's pupils constricted sharply, his face turning deathly pale with shame. He turned back and glared furiously at Yuru, shouting as if unable to suppress his rage. "I already told you not to come, but you insisted on following. Now that you are here, can't you be a bit more obedient and sensible? Are you blind? Can't you see what the situation is right now? Orwen is gravely ill and still has to make arrangements for you. If you don't quietly get down right now, go back to wherever you came from." Yuru was scolded so harshly by Chen Xiao that her eyes turned red. She bit her lip as she got down from the carriage, looking at my daughter with dissatisfaction. "Sister, in-law is so petty. It was just stepping on your maid. Why must you pin such a big accusation on me?" she cried as she went to grab Chen Xiao's hand. "Cousin, don't be angry anymore. I know I was wrong." Chen Xiao irritably brushed away her hand and followed the household servants and guards, carrying my daughter into the courtyard. Once Chen Xiao left, Yuru stopped crying. After following me into the residence, she curled her lip in disdain. "So this is sister-in-law's maiden home, truly a small and humble household." And before certain matters were clarified, I had no complete grasp of her, so there was no need to engage in pointless disputes with her. Just if she liked to say them, then let her say them. If I had complete certain need for words, one fatal strike would suffice. I smiled, and had someone take her to the courtyard where Aunt Fang used to live, then began making arrangements in an orderly manner. The Yangzhou prefect arrived quickly, and Chen Xiao went out to deal with him. I ordered people to prepare food and wine, letting them drink heartily together with the several imperial physicians who came here. After my daughter took the antidote, she slept again, and her complexion improved considerably during the time she was asleep. I summoned all her personal maids and matrons, questioning them one by one. My daughter's personal maid Huan and Nanny Fang were personally selected by me when she was young. They're both house-born servants. Their entire families, old and young, are all in my hands, so they wouldn't dare be disloyal. The young master has always listened to Miss. What is the deal with this Yuru?" Nanny Fang and Ahuan exchanged glances. In the end, it was Nanny Fang who and said tearfully, "Madam, originally Miss was going to deal with Yuru before the new year. Miss has been there is nothing she couldn't handle. But no matter how strong-willed and clever a person is, if their body fails them, they'll be powerless. Mrs. Illness leaves her barely conscious for even a moment. Yuru and the young master are childhood sweethearts. His father died for the sake of the old Marquis. With that layer of gratitude there, she can't be casually dismissed. The slightest misstep would make the young master resent her, and if a husband resents his wife, how could he cherish the children his wife bears? Master has been set on marrying fourth Miss into the Marquis's household as a replacement wife, and has sent the Grand Madam plenty of gifts to curry favour. But the Marquis's household had already internally decided on Miss Yuru to be the young master's second wife. They were all waiting for our Miss to die. This past year, if the young master didn't still have some conscience and watch over our Miss almost day and night, I'm afraid our miss would have already been done in by that aunt and niece pair. Nanny Fang wept with a choked voice, and Juan's eyes reddened too. I clenched my palm, my heart twisted like a knife, tears flowing endlessly. I thanked the immortals and bodhisattvas with the relief of surviving a disaster, giving out porridge and distributing money, just a little bit off, any single thing going wrong even slightly. Awan and I would have been separated forever by death. Everything worked out just right. Fate gently raised its hand and returned the love of my life to me. Me daughter's marriage to Chen Shao was something she fought hard for herself. She has had her own mind since childhood, knowing what she wanted, doing everything to perfection. By the time she came of age, she bought information in advance. She found out that Chen Shao, who was still the heir of Marquis Anyang back then, would be handling a case that day and passing through this street. Her embroidered ball landed precisely in the arms of Chen Shao riding on horseback. In the moment Chen Shao froze. She smiled charmingly. "Young master, you and I are a match made in heaven." Chen Shao blushed, but gripped the red silk of the embroidered ball tightly. When had a son of an aristocratic family ever encountered such a bold and daring young lady? And such a beautiful young lady at that? Chen Shao fell. Chen Shao didn't know he was prey carefully selected by Awan. 1 month before Chen Shao received Awan's embroidered ball, it just so happened that my brother had greased the wheels and obtained the imperial porcelain production rights, becoming an imperial merchant. Everything just right like this. I tried to persuade her. Even if your uncle is an imperial merchant, the Marquis of Anyang's household won't let you be the main wife. Your father is just a minor 5th rank official. The Marquis of Anyang's household is indeed in His Majesty's favor right now. They could even marry a princess. Yet she was certain. "Mother, I will definitely marry him as his main wife, become the heir's wife." "Mother, trust me." I couldn't trust her. Family status was an insurmountable reality, but in the end the old Marquis actually agreed to this marriage. Looking at the betrothal gifts sent by the Marquis of Anyang's household, I still felt like I was dreaming. My brother sent a letter explaining it to me. The Marquis of Anyang's household's power was growing daily, and if it went any further, they'd risk overshadowing the throne. By arranging a marriage for Chen Shao, if the bride's family were too prestigious, it would only add unnecessary trouble and suspicion. Marrying Arwen meant gaining another source of wealth and a way to show loyalty to His Majesty. These were tangible benefits. I told Arwen everything my brother had uncovered, one by one, but Arwen just laughed carelessly. "I already knew all that, Mother. If there were no benefit to them, yet a family of such status still wanted to marry me, that is when I should be afraid. His family wants money, I want the prestige of being the heir's wife, and a good birth and title for my children. It is very fair." I stared at her blankly. "How could you know all this so clearly when even your uncle had to investigate to find out?" She smiled cunningly. "Your daughter doesn't fight unprepared battles. Your daughter knows quite a lot. I even know how many concubines the old Marquis has, and what grudges he has with the Marchioness." Beyond my surprise, I also felt I owed her. If only she had been reborn into a better family, with a higher status. With her cleverness and scheming, she would have lived a very good life. It was I who held her back. The only thing I could do more and more to her dowry and prepare more and more money. After Erwan married into the Marquis's household, her days were not easy. Just as I worried, the Marchioness looked down on her humble origins and imposed strict rules on her. The noble young ladies in the capital had their own circles, and they all excluded and looked down on her. At every banquet they took pleasure in mocking her. Not even half a month after the wedding, the Marchioness had already stuffed several concubines into Chen Shao's room. It could both disgust her and monitor her, but Awan accepted them all with a smile. I couldn't do anything else, so I could only keep stuffing her with money, giving her shops and land, and selecting capable and experienced subordinates for her. When she came back to see me, she wiped my tears and said with a smile, "Why are you crying, Mother? Money makes the world go round. Who doesn't like money? Who thinks they have too much? It is all just fake nobility. They say I reek of money. If I toss a pile of banknotes at their feet, you'll see if they smile or not. Half of father-in-law's did by uncle, so based on that alone, they only dare to disgust me on the surface. What else can they really do? Don't be sad, mother. All beginnings are difficult, but I will definitely establish myself. Good days are never that easy. Even if I married a peasant, I'd still have to hoe fields and weave cloth. In this life, everyone has their own suffering to endure. There is no I'll live my own life well. This is the good life I chose for myself. I broke into a smile through my tears. She indeed did as she said. After she deliberately concealed it, and still obediently went before the marquis's wife every day to stand in attendance. Soon she bled. The old marquis was furious, and Chen Shao, who had always favored mother, also developed a rift with the marquis over this. The old marquis ordered that Awan be exempted from the morning and evening greetings. Awan, through the old marquis's concubine, procured several beautiful Yangzhou courtesans for the old marquis. These Yangzhou courtesans were different from the well-bred concubines the marquis's wife had elevated for Chen Shao. The old marquis got a taste for it and became increasingly dismissive of the marquis's wife. The marquis's wife was so angry she smashed things and fought with the minor concubines every day. Her attention immediately shifted away from Awan, and she even threw away the household management duties. After Awan took over the household management, she had ample funds at her disposal and employed both grace and authority, bringing a breath of fresh air compared to when the marquis's wife managed the household in the past. The servants obeyed her, the elders praised her, and her husband doted on her. By the time the marquis's wife came to her senses, Awan had already gained the old marquis's approval. The household management authority had completely fallen into Awan's hands. She began to take charge and rise to power. In this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law battle, Awan achieved a great victory and gradually began to establish her reputation in the capital. On the day Awan gave birth to her daughter, she used a method to have Chen Shao listen outside the door. Basin after basin of bloody water was carried out, and the midwife deliberately shouted that there was no breath left, fearing it wouldn't work out. That both mother and child would die. Chen Shao's legs went weak with fright. His face turned deathly pale, scared out of his wits. But Awan coaxed him, saying, "Being able to give my husband a child is Awan's honor. Even if I have to give up this life, it is worth it." Chen Shao shook his head with red-rimmed eyes, tears streaming down. "It is not worth it. Awan, no one is worth you doing this." "But I love you, husband. When a woman loves someone, she is willing to risk her life to leave him a bloodline. When I was a daughter at home, mother was the most important person to me. Now that I've married you, you are the most important person in my life. Parents have their own lives, future. Only you and I are husband and wife who will accompany each other for a lifetime." These words beyond what is written in books, Chen Shao heard for the first time. Responsibility Chen Shao encountered for the first time. He and was unwilling to let go ever again, not even knowing why himself. "My wife, I will treat you well." After the child was born, Awan guided Chen Shao every day to look at and hold the baby. Chen Shao never missed a single day after his daughter was born. Gradually, the urging became a habit. After getting off work, Chen Shao didn't need to be asked. He also declined wine banquets and gatherings with friends, rushing home to see his daughter. Those fair weather friends drifted away, and the time spent reading and keeping his daughter company increased. He adored the little jade girl and often got up at night to check on the child later. For convenience, he actually knocked through both rooms. Madame Hu was so angry she cursed him as useless. But Chen Shao said, "There are too many useful people in this world. They don't need one more like me, but my wife and daughter only have me. As long as I am useful to them, that is enough." It was only at this moment that I understood what my daughter said back then. At that time I asked her, "Since you want to marry up, there are so many people in the capital, why must it be Chen Shao?" "Because he is soft-hearted, good-looking too, and has a good temper." When Chen served as an official, he often secretly gave money to those small vendors for lawsuits, and after they lost, he would often help them out. His salary was seeing Chen Shao say, "There are too many useful people in this world. They don't need one more like me, but my wife and daughter only have me." Instantly brought tears to my eyes. He gave up the useful label in the outside world just to guard his own little family. It turns out the best kind of love has never been about how capable you are, but rather I am useful to you. Compared to those men full of big talk, this kind of honest words that put wife and daughter at the top of his heart is the most touching. It wasn't even enough to cover what he gave away. When marrying off daughters to high families, one must look at the family status, but also at the husband. If the husband is no good, then it is no good either. No matter how high the family status, the daughter shouldn't go there. But after 2 years passed, the Anyang Marquis manor had completely changed. Awen shed her girlish immaturity and became a decisive and efficient mistress of the household. The mockery toward Awen that had existed in the capital was now completely gone. When others mentioned her, it was mostly with admiration. Even the Marquis's wife had been worn down by Awen's covert counterattacks and no longer concerned herself with worldly matters, devoting herself wholeheartedly to Buddhist chanting. When the Jade girl turned 1-year-old, Awen quickly became pregnant again. The imperial physician said it was a male fetus. I was both happy and worried. She was so smooth sailing, living her days so well. All the miscellaneous and troublesome matters became neat and orderly once they reached her hands. As if she was born to stand here. I belatedly realized that no matter who Awen married, even if Awen didn't marry at all, she would live well. Because she herself was someone who treated herself well, she clearly knew what she wanted and also knew what she could get after working hard, watching Awen's days at the Marquis Manor become more and more prosperous. Just at this time, something suddenly happened that completely off guard. She suddenly had a miscarriage and fell gravely ill. Chen Shao invited imperial physicians daily, but couldn't find her. Body deteriorated day by day like this, sleeping in a daze day and night. When she realized her end was near, she immediately accepted her fate and put all her focus on paving the way for her daughter. When Awen woke up, I was playing with little girl Yu, perhaps affected by her mother's absorption of the Red Buddha's hand. Little girl Yu's health wasn't very good either. I had someone carry little girl Yu out and stand guard outside the door, then fed Awen a dose of antidote. I told her everything about the hand. He Jing and concubine Fang. She happily gripped my hand. Mother, you really are my mother. You've finally been willing to go all out once. I wondered why I had such guts, Mother. You are even bolder than me when you go crazy. How did you come up with those things to deceive Father? You even dared to falsely transmit the Prime Minister's words. I smiled bitterly without speaking. 20 years as husband and wife. How could I not understand what the person beside my people have obsessions and desires? They have weaknesses. 1 kill, 1 hit. This medicine needs to be taken for half a month to fully recover. What do you plan to do about that, Yuru? Awen smiled indifferently. Hershey has been spoiled rotten, lived in the Anyang Marquis Manor since childhood, pampered as she grew up. Although Chen Shao seems somewhat annoyed by her willfulness, he truly dotes on her and treats her as his own sister. She suddenly paused, and the smile on her lips. The imperial physician said, I didn't have long to live. My mother-in-law got cocky again. She came out of the Buddhist hall and started managing the household again, decided that Yuru would be his second wife after my death, and he agreed to it too. She bit her lip mockingly. Father never gave me anything all these years. Married, he said that incense was a wedding gift he specially found for me. I am actually soft-hearted too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have burned that life-threatening incense for 3 years. I was soft-hearted toward Chen Shao too. These past few years together, we were inseparable like glue. It was hard for me not to fall in love with him. I was bedridden for a year, and he personally took care of me for that whole year without letting anyone else help. I am grateful to him, but he shouldn't have, while I was sick and unconscious, taken Yura to Yuru and let Yuru start getting used to being Yura's mother. Yura fell out of the cradle because Yuru didn't take proper care of her and nearly got her face scarred. Whether Yuru did it on purpose or not, I can't forgive them. So even though my illness hasn't recovered, I must deal with Yuru and Chen Shao's mother on this trip to Yangzhou. As for Chen Shao, if I had died, his punishment would only be not being able to have children. But now I am not going to die, so he needs to live well, earn an imperial title for me, and earn hereditary privileges for my children. When she said these things, her eyes were completely cold without a trace of tenderness. This year of lingering illness in bed, she experienced the fawning and trampling of others that would take half a lifetime, as well as deep fear. It also wore away her love for Chen Xiao. I don't know if this counts as a good thing or not. Anyway, my Awan will always live her days well, no matter what the situation is. As long as she is alive, she can handle things properly. A few days later, Yuru clamored for Chen Xiao to accompany her out of the estate to have fun. Chen Xiao had no choice but to come tell me to take good care of Awan while he took Yuru out for a stroll. Not long after leaving, passing through the most prosperous street in Yangzhou City, Yuru took her maid into a jewelry shop, and while he was waiting outside, a Western region's dressed physician grabbed his wrist. "What kind of fragrance is the young master using?" Chen Xiao was bewildered. "I am a man. Why would I use fragrance?" The servant beside him leaned in to smell. "Isn't this the medicinal smell from the herbs that madam drinks? What fragrance smell is there?" The physician was greatly shocked. "Is your wife about to die?" Chen Xiao's face changed drastically. "How do you know that?" "What you are stained with is indeed a medicinal smell, but mixed in this medicinal smell is a fragrance produced in the Western regions called Red Buddha's Hand. It seems to have the same scent as the broken golden stamens on the market, but the former can take lives, especially of pregnant women. If a woman who has had a miscarriage is exposed to it, it won't be long before she'll likely lose her life." Chen Xiao's face changed in shock. Ivrio knew that when Hewan married, her father had found fragmented golden stamens, a famous incense costing 100 taels per tael, and sent it as a wedding gift. After he married Hewan, Yuru was sent back to her own home. It wasn't until a year ago, when Hewan had a miscarriage, that Yuru was brought back to the Anyang Marquis manor. And the incense she wore was the same as Awan's. And Yuru's father, who was also his uncle, had once served in the Western region's protectorate. Chen Xiao left Yuru behind and rushed straight to the He family home with the physician. He ran into Hewan's room, rummaged through boxes and cabinets, and found the incense stored in a chest. He also asked me for the fragmented golden stamens incense that He Jing had originally obtained, and took both samples to the physician for examination. The physician sniffed the one from Awan's chest. "This is indeed Red Buddha's hand." Then he sniffed He Jing's sample. "This is indeed fragmented golden stamens. Besides, what father would harm his own daughter?" Chen Xiao closed his eyes. "Yes, what father would bear to harm his daughter? What am I still hoping for? According to what you've said, young master, the madam was in good health 2 years ago. It was only after the miscarriage that she suddenly became like this. I am afraid someone switched this incense, wanting to take the madam's life. If this person hadn't stayed in the Western regions, they probably wouldn't know about these things. If you don't believe me, young master, you can find more physicians who have knowledge of this to look." Chen Xiao's face turned deathly pale, only managing to keep his footing by holding onto the doorframe. He asked in a trembling voice, Is there an antidote?" "There is naturally an antidote, but preparing this medicine requires daily cooperation from an unmarried woman to draw some blood." Chen Xiao's eyes reddened, his fists clenched so tight they creaked. "There is. Don't worry, sir. I'll personally draw this blood every day and deliver it to you." Yuru returned in a fury, throwing a tantrum at Chen Xiao. "Cousin, why did you leave me alone and come back by yourself?" Chen Xiao threw the red bergamot incense at her face. "Look at what you've done. Your heart is so vicious. In the past, when you were disrespectful to Awan, she tolerated you, yet you still push her like this." Yuru instantly exploded. "Chen Xiao, what madness has gotten into you? If it weren't for yours would have died long ago. What is wrong with me using the same incense as her? She is allowed to use it, but others aren't. Is she that domineering, about to die, and still acting like this? Truly deserved." Chen Xiao slapped her across the face, stunning Yuru. "You hit me, cousin, you hit me. So what if I want her dead? You were supposed to marry me in the first place. Your father owes my father a life. The son pays the father's debt. Why won't you marry me? She deserved to die anyway. Who told her to steal my position?" Chen Xiao's heart died completely. He looked at Yuru with disappointment, grabbed her hand, and dragged her into the room. Chen Xiao pulled out a dagger, slashed her wrist, and began to draw blood. Yuru cried heartbreakingly, struggling and pounding on him, but couldn't push him away no matter what. This is the mistake you made, Yuru. You must atone to Awan. For the next month, Awan was locked in the room to have her blood drawn. She cursed every day. But in Chen Xiao's eyes, Awan's condition improved day by day. On this day, Awan came out to the courtyard and, hearing Yuru's cursing, went in out of curiosity. Seeing the imprisoned Yuru and understanding the whole situation, she went crying to find Chen Xiao. Don't do this. How could she is your sister. Even if I am still alive, after we return I would have made her your equal wife. No matter what she did wrong, she is still your sister, and her father is your father's savior. How can you treat her like this? Chen Xiao held Awan tightly and said with difficulty, You don't know how terrible the things she did were, yet you are still soft-hearted and pleading for her. I won't marry her anymore, and I won't take an equal wife. I've already found another family for her. Once your illness is cured and we return to the capital, I'll marry her off. Awan buried herself in his embrace, wiped her tears with indifferent eyes, suppressed the mockery at the corner of her lips and said softly, That won't do. Her heart is full of you, and I know my husband likes her too. There is no need for this. I won't be angry, Aiken Shao sighed. You are just too soft-hearted, always thinking too much for my sake. Ah, Wan, I've wronged you. You should think more about yourself. At the end of the month, Wan recovered from her illness and was about to set off to return to the capital. She gripped my hand tightly. Mother, when the day comes that you and I are both widows, those will be good days. Still Wan, still bold as brass. Not long after she returned to the capital, her father He Jing woke up. He'd had a stroke. The lower half of his body couldn't move, his mouth was crooked, and he drooled. He screamed in terror. How did I become like this? There was no one in the courtyard. The people who used to be in the He household had all been it. The concubines in the house who were willing to live out their days peacefully in the He household were all sent to a separate residence with servants to attend to them. Those unwilling were given farmland, banknotes, and their freedom papers and sent back home. He looked at the white mourning cloths hung everywhere in the residence and asked somewhat excitedly and regretfully, Awan, is she really gone? This father didn't even get to see her one last time. I said indifferently. Actually, no. It is your wife who died from worrying you'd die after your illness. And also your beloved concubine and the bastard daughter you doted on. They eloped with someone and were drowned in the pond. You don't know this, do you? Aunt Fang won, and He Ju is a bastard child, not your daughter. He Jing's pupils shrank sharply, wanting to get up from the bed to hit me, but rolled onto the floor instead. You are talking nonsense. Your daughter is the bastard child. I smiled and kicked him a few times. That is right. Aunt Fang didn't have a lover. I made it up. He Ju is your biological daughter, but so what? Rumors can destroy a person. People outside don't think so now. Aunt Fang is unchaste, and He Ju is a bastard child. I crouched down, looking expressionlessly at his vicious face. I viciously spat saliva on his face. I raised my hand, one punch after another, crazily smashing down, with my uncontrollable humiliation and hatred. Just like you, just like how you thought I was unchaste. How Awan's origins were unclean. He Jing, you bastard. It was me who saved you. It was me who saved you time and time again. Does it hurt? You should hurt now. You should hurt now. But I won't hurt anymore. He Jing, I will never hurt again. After exhausting my strength, I collapsed on the ground, looking at the beam above through tear. Blurred eyes, He Jing spat blood. With a weak voice, he cried and begged me. She is innocent. What about my daughter? Isn't she innocent? I coldly curled up. With a father like you favoring her, she is not innocent. It is the same deserving of death. Awan returned to the Anyang Marquis manor for barely half a month. Chen Xiao's mother once again devoted herself to Buddhism and started holding her prayer beads, chanting scriptures and believing in Buddha again. Yuru's marriage was delayed. It wasn't because Chen Shao had a change of heart and regretted it, but because the Western region's protectorate submitted a memorial impeaching Yuru's father, suspected of selling weapons and colluding with the enemy, and her father didn't die to save Chen Shao's father either, but because after Chen Shao's father discovered his crimes, he chased him all the way. He killed Chen Shao's father to protect himself, and then died under Chen Shao's father's blade. The two perished together. It wasn't at all about infiltrating the enemy army to burn their grain, with both being killed together. Yuru was relegated to criminal slave status and entered the palace as a servant. Before leaving, she desperately begged Chen Shao. Shao kicked her away expressionlessly and had people take her away. The Enyang Marquis manor completely quieted down. Chen Shao's mood was gloomy. Up to now, the only solace he could find was in Awan and Yue. Fortunately, I still have my wife and daughter. Awan, my wife, you'll always stay by my side, won't you? Awan smiled charmingly, nodding just like when they first met. But her eyes held only the coldness of experienced everything in life, without a trace of the tender affection from when she was a young girl in love. His wife had long been disappointed in him. What remained was Lady Hiwan, the wife of the Marquis of Anyang. 5 years later, Awan gave birth to the young heir of the Marquis of Anyang. He Jing was also reassigned to serve at the border. She sent me a letter. Mother, come show you around. Clearly she wanted to trick me into helping her with the kids. But I missed her too. And I missed those 2 children who carried a quarter of... I looked at the half-dead. He Jing with disgust. Nanian shouted loudly. Master, you've soiled yourself again. After years of tormenting him to vent my anger, I'd gotten it all out and found him very annoying to look at. Find a day that is neither too cold nor too hot, and bury him.